Hi, and welcome to our new season of Semmelweis Stemtalk. We're kicking it off with a fantastic guest, Dr. Mirella Barboni, who is originally from Brazil and has been working and living in Hungary for quite a few years now. She is a researcher in the field of visual neuroscience at the Department of Ophthalmology of Semmelweis University. And not only is she a scientist, she's also a mom of 2 kids and a recipient of the Order of Rio Branco. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the invitation.
Now, I'd like to start off today by discussing your life story, first of all, and what brought you all the way from Brazil to Hungary.
So I was born in Brazil, in São Paulo. It's not a small town, I would say. It's very different, very big. But so I had my education there. I was growing up there. And at some point, I started to do research. And with the research, you start to go to conferences and meet scientists. And I met a scientist who is Hungarian, and it's now my husband. And we decided to move to Hungary 8 years ago, although we met in Brazil. And it was not only a personal reason that was bringing me to Hungary. It was also a work opportunity because I got a postdoc fellowship to go abroad, to go to Europe. And we selected Budapest, of course, not only because my husband is Hungarian, but also because I had connections with the people at Semmelweis University. There was a great professor who was the previous director of the clinic, and he was very happy to invite me for his new project. And with this opportunity, I could work for 1 year, and I didn't know what would be the future after that, but I was very lucky to find nice colleagues in the department who were willing to have somebody new from abroad and with new ideas to bring to their research. So I would say it was a mixture of personal and working reasons, and I'm very happy that all these life changes were bringing me to Hungary.
And how did you actually meet your husband? What's the story?
Well, it was, as I said, it was in Brazil. We had a scientific conference, and we are not exactly from the same field, but there was a topic in common. And after that, of course, we had a hard time because he was living here and I was living there. And we had to manage meetings sometimes. But then when he finished his PhD, he decided to move to Brazil. And we were there for several years. The kids were born there, actually. But at some point we wanted to experience something new. For him was not very new to come to Hungary, but for me and for the kids was we knew it would be a great experience. And then we took the chance to live here, and I just can say that I do not regret. It's very nice.
That's such a sweet story. Another reason to attend scientific conferences, by the way. So did you always know that you want to be a researcher? Is it something you always dreamed about, or is it something that came later in life?
I think I always knew, not that I wanted to, maybe not that I wanted to be a scientist or exactly what I would do, but when I was small, I was always very curious and explorer. So I have 2 older brothers, and with them we were like the explorers, and we wanted something investigation, mysterious for everyday games at home. So I think from that time I knew I wanted to be something like a researcher, whatever it meant to me at that time. Our main topics were usually find something in a mysterious forest or up to the space or something like that. But when I was growing up, I knew, because in school I liked biology very much and science in general, and I was always thinking how things work, especially related to human body and these things. So more or less, I knew always that I wanted to do something with research. This was clear for me from the beginning, and I don't remember having the feeling of being anything else. So I think I had it inside me from the beginning. Yes.
Right. And how did you end up choosing your particular specialization?
Yeah. So when I started at the university, I had a great, amazing teacher for neurophysiology. So I think this helped a lot because he was great. He was a reference in the area in Brazil. And he made me see or feel the beauty of neuroscience, because if you study neuroscience, you can not only know about how the brain works, but how our personality works and how everything works in our life. So I think from the beginning I had this feeling that neuroscience would be the area I wanted to be involved. And later, also at the university, I had another teacher, a professor, and she was a great researcher in this area I am, in this visual electrophysiology. And I had her like as a reference to me, and I think that was another very good person that I could cross. But I was ending up in a visual neuroscience lab in Brazil, and I think that was the strongest reason that at the end, all the research I did, either in basic science with animal models or in clinical science, it was always related to visual neuroscience. And I think it was somehow a feeling that I had, that I liked this very much, but also the places I went, they were very much bringing or driving me to this place.
So when you moved to Hungary, at the time you were already working in Brazil, right?
I had my position at the university already, yes.
And what was it like? What did it feel like to leave everything behind and start basically from scratch somewhere new?
Yeah. Many challenges indeed. First, I had to leave a scientific or basic science laboratory in Brazil where I was working and come to a clinic, a hospital, a university hospital. So it was already a big change. I was not used to this environment.
Right.
There was the language. I came here not speaking Hungarian, so you can imagine how...
Oh, I can definitely imagine.
You can tell me how it is. So I think it was a good situation that everybody in my department was understanding my limitations in the beginning. And even if I had to interact with the patients, they were very kind to see that I was trying to learn somehow. I think every Hungarian knows that the language is quite hard to learn, but I wanted very much, and I always thought that if I want to live here and understand culture and everything, I should learn. And there were some personal changes as well, of course, because when you move with kids to a new country, it's always a challenge, because I had to get used to how the kindergartens were, because we're very different in Brazil, of course, and with the teachers, with everybody around my kids, I had to somehow interact with them and understand. I had a great help, of course, from my husband and also my parents-in-law. They were helping a lot. But in terms of work, how it was, the difference, it was changing. I was in an environment where all the researchers now are medical doctors, and I'm not a medical doctor, but they appreciated my research background, so it was a good joining. It was, I think it was promising to bring to them what I learned many years doing research. And I learned from them a lot about clinics, about the disease, and it was a big gain. as I said, in the beginning, I was not sure how long I would stay. So for me, it was more or less, okay, some new experience. Maybe I go home after, and it would be just great to learn a lot. But when I realized I would stay here, it was too late. I was already able to speak the language, and I was able to interact with the patients, with everybody. So I think it was not hard break or change in my life. It was smoothly going to a nice direction, I would say.
And were there any cultural shocks or pleasant surprises when you first moved here?
I will start with the pleasant surprises. I think it was about the language, because I thought people would not accept in some circumstances that I don't speak the language, especially if you want to do clinical research. It's a bit hard, but not. They were respecting, they appreciated that I tried and I wanted to learn. In the beginning, I couldn't say everything I wanted, but the colleagues were helping me a lot. So this was a big surprise for me, because I was somehow very, very welcomed in the work and all the environments. I had to face this challenge in the beginning. Some cultural shocks. Okay, Brazilians are a little bit more social people, I would say. I don't think the Hungarians are not. They are very nice socializing, but Brazil is the extreme of the socialization. And yes, I felt the difference in terms of trying to control myself, not want to be friends with everybody all the time, because it's another culture. It was interesting for me anyway. And well, yes, there are some difference in food as well, because in Brazil, for example, in the kindergartens, usually they give to the kids a lot of fruits, juice, because of course we have the whole year different fruits there. It's a tropical country. And here, when I saw the kids eating bread every day and tea and these things, like the fruit of the day was usually apple, and it was different for me. But I could get used to that. It was not something very hard. And I would say the winter is a little bit different in Brazil. So this part in the first 2 years was not very easy. But after a while, you start to enter the routine of having winter festivals and many nice things that I think it balances the side that you cannot stay outside so much. So it's a pleasant time also in Hungary. I think so.
Very relevant right now. Very cold outside
today,
especially. And what helped you to make this move and to adjust to your new life here?
I think to have a Hungarian family helps, of course, when you go to another country where you are not from the country, your husband is not, nobody's from there. It's a bit harder. But to have my husband Hungarian helped a lot, and my kids, when we moved, they already spoke Hungarian, so it was also something very good. And I think I have great parents-in-law. Actually, they are all the time ready to help.
Oh, and
this is very important. And also, not from them only. I think even my family in Brazil, they were helping a lot, because in the beginning they were coming visit, because they knew if they come, they could help with the kids. And I think it was easier to adjust with the help of the family. This in more personal terms. In the work, as I said, the colleagues were very nice. So they were always helping me, because if you are new in the department, it's already sometimes hard to find the ways where you can get the documents, the authorizations, and this is natural. I knew I would face that. But when you don't speak properly the language, it becomes even harder. But I didn't have any problems. So they were always supporting and helping, and I don't see... nowadays, looking back, I don't see I had any hard time because of the move. It was very comfortable to move, and I was the people in the department was very kind with me.
That sounds great. I mean, it's really important to have that, support when you're moving somewhere. And I think a lot of people don't really have that when they move, and that it's very difficult. So it's wonderful when you have it. Now, nowadays, what does a typical day look like for you?
Okay, I'm thinking if I have a typical day nowadays.
Or something like.
Yes, I know, I understood. Okay, so we have, there are the days we have the clinical research that we really need to reserve the days to stay, to test the patients, and sometimes it's like 4 hours. But what I have usually every day is like consultation with students, not the ones from here only, but also from Brazil, because I still have the connections with the Brazilians. So usually online meetings, there are several during the week. Right. Something very typical is also to have articles to review, because I am part of editorial board of some journals. I have this frequently. And data analysis. I think to sit down and to analyze data is something that takes a lot of my time, and it's really good because this is the part of the work I like to do. And sometimes it's together with my colleagues, which is even nicer because we discuss the results, the data, and we think how we should publish, how we should report in a conference. But sometimes I just sit down for 2 hours and enjoy the data, looking, and every time you find something different, something that you see, oh, here there is something that might be important, and then you go to the articles to see if there is anything related to that has been published before, and then you start to make the connections. So I would say this is the part of the job that I feel more exciting, when you can really see your data, what you found, and somehow correlate or corroborate with the data or the finds that there is it already exists. But yeah, because I also involved in basic research, so sometimes I need to go to the animal lab and do some animal experiments, not here in Hungary, but usually traveling abroad. And that as I said, then it's not a typical day, but it's something that happens quite often, that I go to. We have a big project with a group of friends, so it's very often I need to go to Paris, but also with the Brazilians we keep the collaboration. So if you are, I think that if you want to be a researcher, somehow you need to like to travel, because you cannot do it every time alone in your own place. Of course, online meetings nowadays helped a lot, the interaction, but it's when you need to run an experiment, you cannot do it online. So yes, you need to travel. I like to travel, so that's the good part.
That sounds like a very busy workday, or a typical workday. But I know that besides work and besides family, you are also quite an active member of your community. And recently, you were awarded the Order of Rio Branco. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and what led up to those events?
Yeah, it was really great. So since I arrived here, I am in contact with the Brazilian embassy in Hungary. And my first thought was that, okay, I'm leaving the country, I'm leaving Brazil, I'm coming to a new country. My kids are growing up. Somehow they need to keep their mother language, that for me was the Portuguese in the beginning. And I want to keep that. So together with the Brazilian embassy, we could implement program to try to stimulate Brazilian kids in Hungary to speak the language somehow. And I found very nice support from the Brazilian embassy. And since then, I got a lot of interactions with them, not only regarding the language, Portuguese language, but also regarding science and technology. And they somehow felt like I could represent Brazil in Hungary as the scientific person when they have a delegation coming for visiting
That sounds very
universities.
exciting.
Yes, there was once here at Semmelweis, and it was very nice. I could be together, and it's not only nice to see Brazilians coming and interested in the Hungarian universities, but at the same time I also get to know more about what's happening in Brazil. So it's for me it's also very important. And since then, they invited me for different events, and we organized 2 years ago a Brazilian Hungarian scientific event. It was maybe it was 3 years ago, because it was the time still some restrictions for traveling, and we
Of
did
course, yeah.
we did the event, the whole event online. It was very nice. I was helping to organize. And I think because of this event mainly, but also all the other things around, they thought I should be decorated. And the reason is because it's somebody abroad, outside Brazil, disseminating Brazilian culture or technology or science, and is usually given to representatives of Brazil in other countries all around the world, actually. And yeah, it was just this year in September that I got the award, and it's pretty nice because it's a great recognition in Brazil. And here I somehow could make even stronger my interactions with the Brazilian embassy and the diplomats here.
That
So
sounds
it was
very
great.
interesting. Congratulations.
Thank you
by
so
the way.
much.
You've mentioned so many interesting things today, and you seem to have so many positive experiences, in your journey. Were there any challenges, perhaps, in your career?
Yeah, I think there are. So I would say that once you want to pursue a scientific career, you know that what you produce in terms of publication and projects and grants that you can get, it will count. This is what make you grow in your career. And of course, if you want to be a mother, you need to take some time to have the kids, and maybe this gap in career was before. It was harder, I guess, because many agencies nowadays, they consider if you had a break because of maternity leave, they consider it as not as a time that you should have been working, but a time that doesn't count for your publications or for your career. It's an interval. So this is very nice, but I still think that for woman is still a challenge, that you want to do both. You want to do your scientific career or anything else, and also to have your family. But it's very possible, because I think it's manageable. You can, I don't know, but when I had small kids and the times when they were sleeping, I just took the articles and I was reading. So it was not as often as before, but still it was in a good situation that I was doing, because the time with the kids was so much intensive, that you had to do so many things, that the time that I could calm down and concentrate, I was really concentrated. So I think when you become a mother, it makes you use better your time. So it was a challenge, but I think you can use for the good. And coming here, I thought I would face the challenge of, as I said, not being a medical doctor, to go to a place where there are just medical doctors doing research. But I didn't. You see, even this, what I thought would be the challenge, I didn't face too much. I didn't feel, because they could appreciate my research background. Well, still you have challenge, because as a researcher, you need to keep yourself supported by some agencies, some research agencies, if you want to get the money and pay the researchers to help you, or just the materials you need to buy. So far I was lucky to get the grants here in Hungary, so I didn't have any problem so far. But I know there is it's highly competitive to get the grants. So I think this can be also a big challenge. I don't know how it will be now in the future, but I hope Hungary will keep giving such nice grants, and in our group, I hope we can get them.
I see. Now, to wrap up our conversation for today, I would like to ask you, do you have any advice for young people who are perhaps considering a career abroad and want to start a whole new life somewhere? And also perhaps to those who are not sure whether they can combine things like family and motherhood and having a career?
Mm-hmm. So if you are young, or if I look back what I think I would have done if I was young and I knew I would want to be a researcher, to go for science, I think I would have talked more with the references, because I was very afraid in the beginning. When you were starting to investigate something, you know more or less, but sometimes you feel you don't know enough to approach somebody who is in the area for many years and it's very experienced. And I had the opportunity to go to conferences from the very beginning when I was not even a PhD yet. But I was always a bit afraid of discussing data with them or making questions. And much later, I saw that my questions were actually not very bad, not very stupid. It would have been nice to discuss with them. So this could be one advice, that you don't need to be afraid. I think more experienced scientists, they appreciate when the young ones come to ask them, because they see, okay, this person is really interested. And the other thing is that I would say that there is no rule for that, but I would say if you want to do research and have your PhD, maybe you could, after the PhD, have the kids. I know there is not a specific time for that, but because once you finish, you start with that pressure of publishing and getting the grants and going to conferences. And when you are just a young PhD, I think you don't have this how to say that, do you say that you don't have this pressure so much,
right?
And then I think it's a good time to enjoy your kids, and in the meantime trying to organize for future grant applications, or think what direction you want to follow in your career. So it was exactly what I did. So when I had my PhD defense, 2 months later I had the first baby. So
wow.
I knew I had to finish it.
That was a great motivator,
yes,
I guess.
It was a great deadline I had. So I think this could be an advice, but as I said, it's different for everyone. But I think it's a good time to have the kids when you just finish your PhD. You don't have the pressure from the PhD, and you don't have yet the pressures of your career as a scientist.
Wow, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and for sharing your fantastic story. We were really, really happy to have you here with us today, and we wish you all the best for the future.
I thank you very much for the opportunity and the efforts to disseminate science and women in science. It's a very nice program. Thank you very much.